It's a pleasure talking to you, Excellency. Let me start by asking you, the elections are just few days away. Are you confident of winning at this election?
Oh, certainly. From, as you may have already known, I've just concluded my community-to-community engagement, which took me to all major communities and, in fact, almost all the wards in this state. And we held mega rallies in various places within a local government, as opposed to what the other side is doing. And we're addressing major voters right in their communities and where they stay to vote. So the outcome of that engagement has shown me clearly that Bayelsans are behind me and my aspiration. Bayelsans are behind the PDP, and Temipri Silva and his party will be roundly rejected.
That's the major opponent, isn't it?
Oh, certainly, yes. That's the major opposition party in the state.
Do you have any fears about the contest with him?
No, that's what I'm saying. Bayelsans are the voters. The voters are not federal institutions that my opponent's campaign is about. Because all he's telling people of Bayelsa is that he will use federal mind to terrorize them, to harass them. He will use federal mind to compromise the electoral process. And they are threatening reprisals for contractors, federal contractors. And you have a few people who are seeking federal appointments. Those are the only people in APC. So what you see there is doesn't pose any real challenge to me and to my party. And I've taken the campaigns to all the nooks and crannies of our state. I've interacted with the voters right where they would live, right where they will stay and vote, and the turnout is massive. And from what I've seen, there's no doubt that elections are over. Oh. The elections are over because the people have spoken, and I know that on the 5th of December they will turn out massively to vote. The only thing left is for the federal government and its agencies not to let the people of Bayelsa down. And let me use this opportunity to call Mr. President to act as the leader of the nation that he is. He's a member of a party, but then he's the leader of our country. And they've got to remember that the PDP, my party, conducted an election where an incumbent president, a sitting president, incidentally from this state, lost or was said to have lost and obeyed the rules of the game and handed over power. You know, when we were in power, PDP was in power for 16 years. We didn't take all countries, all the states of the Federation by hook or crook. We allowed the democratic process to play out. So the democratic rights of the people of Bayelsa should be respected. My opponent's campaign is not that he will better the lots of Bayelsans. And incidentally, is somebody whose track record, whose antecedent is very well known. I mean, he was governor for almost 5 years. I have been governor for not up to 4 years. And the people know the schools I've built that he didn't build. They know the roads and bridges that he could have built but didn't build, which I have built. They know the lack of security and the killings and the cult violence in Bayelsa that have restored some level of normalcy. They know all of this. So let me tell you this. Temipri Silva is not contesting an election against me to win on account of the votes of the state. He knows that clearly. He doesn't stand a chance. He knows that his party, the APC, doesn't have a strong foothold in this state. He's running this race only hoping that federal institutions will be manipulated and that the electoral process will be perverted in his favor. That's the only reason he's running an election.
But Your Excellency,
yes.
If you look at it, you are in a race with a man. Of course, you are an experienced politician. You've been a lawmaker, now a governor. You understand that someone who has been a former governor just before you, and also it's going to be having a lot of grassroots support. Do you realize that?
Let me tell you, all that is APC propaganda. Temipri Silva has no grassroots support in this state. Don't forget that he ran for a senatorial race just a few months back. What was the grassroots support? Couldn't even win his own polling unit.
So you mean he's a featherweight in this race?
Let me tell you this. Temipri Silva knows, everybody in Bayelsa knows. The people of Bayelsa, the voters in Bayelsa know. They know my record for the past close to 4 years now, and they know also his own record of non-performance for close to 5 years. So he doesn't stand a chance in an election against me where the rules will be respected. Therefore, is only entering into this race not because he has popular support, not because he hopes to win in any election against me, not even in his ward will he win. It's only hope. And the reason he's in this race is because he's hoping and working very hard to ensure that he uses the federal control of the institutions of state, security institutions, the electoral institution, which is federal, and all of that, to his favor by perverting the process. Timothy Silva doesn't stand a chance in an election against me in any unit in Bayelsa, in any ward in Bayelsa, in any community in Bayelsa. And I have worked more than him. The records are there. You can't compare my record of service of less than 4 years with his own record of service for about 5 years. It's clear. I've been to all the communities. He cannot embark on the community-to-community engagement that I'm embarking on, because he knows that the people will reject him.
Your Excellency, tell me, are you desperate to win this election?
There's nothing about desperation in politics. I'm here to serve my people. I'm trying my best to make a difference, and the difference is clear, and I'm in a race to win. The other side is desperate. I'm not desperate. I'm counting on the votes of all registered voters in Bayelsa. And what I have told them is that they should turn out en masse to vote, and that their votes should count. And if they turn out en masse and their votes count, there is no way Timothy Silva will come near me. He will be lucky to even score 5% of votes, the total number of registered votes. And this is a fact. You can just go to the streets and talk to the market women, talk to the taxi drivers, talk to the business people you meet along the road, talk to the students, talk to everybody. They know the difference between me and my record of service in this state and Timothy Silva. So he is the one that is desperate, and his desperation is because he's full of vengeance and anger about his rejection by the people of the state. And he wants to utilize his party's victory at the federal level as an opportunity to impose himself on the people of Bayelsa, whether we like it or not. He goes to the SS office in Abuja and in Yenagoa much more than he goes to his party secretariat. So you ask him, doing what? I am incumbent governor with a responsibility for law and order, and I follow due process in my interactions with the security agency. But Timothy Silva's campaign, the APC's only hope of winning in this election, which is hopeless because they cannot win on ground, is on how they can use the security to terrorize people, how they can make false allegations against law-abiding people who are PDP stalwarts and supporting us, so that they can use federal security to now hound them into custody while elections are going on. How they can use the security to undermine the electoral process, how they can use federal influence to undermine INEC and compromise the integrity of the elections. Right. That is their only hope.
Let me quickly go to some other issues relating to infrastructure, issues of benefits to the people of the state. Bayelsa State is rich in terms of natural resources, so as much of some other states in the country, but it's peculiar. Bayelsa is peculiar in the sense that it's an oil-rich region. A lot of people know that just how much the state gets in terms of federal allocation every month. The people know just how much talented the people of Bayelsa is. Can you tell Nigerians just one thing that you know that is outstanding, that the people of Bayelsa will never forget you for, that you have done in the last few years that you've been governor?
Well, Bayelsans will already, and those are the issues. That's why it doesn't stand a chance in this election against me. They understand that we are the government of peace, order, and security. They know that just 4 years ago, when he was governor, no opponent could campaign in Bayelsa. All well-meaning Bayelsans were on exile, and they are not prepared to go on exile again. I couldn't come to this state for 2 years, and I was a member of the House of Reps. Timothy Silva is somebody you can't disagree with and remain alive. We were counting, losing count of even the number of people that were killed on the streets of Bayelsa, cause-related violence, all sponsored by the government.
allegations and grave allegations.
Oh yes, oh yeah. Now, it's not just me saying it. I went from community to community, and every community, my dear brother, had a story to tell. They could call names of young people who were killed, who were murdered, gruesomely murdered, by agents of the states under his government. And he didn't see anything wrong about it. Or ask the president himself. President Buhari knows what happened to him when he came here as an aspirant under CPC to campaign. What was done to him is talks were hoodlums, criminal cult elements were unleashed on him. And when he came this time to campaign against a president from this state in my party, he knows the steps I took to protect him from these same elements. So the issue of security is so paramount, is so critical in this election, and Bayelsans will know what to do. Already, non-indigenous and other traders are threatening to relocate. They're threatening to leave the state. Because from the time Tinubu Silva became candidate of APC, by hook or crook, from that time till now, there is an increase in cult-related violence. Because that is his nature. You can't take it away from him. So the issue of security is paramount. The structures are put in place. Operation Darkboy is working well, and I've never used security and will never use security to hound any opponent. I believe that there should be dissent in a democracy. People are free to disagree with me, and I've had a lot of disagreements. But in none of these will you hear anybody say, Governor Dickson sent people to harass or intimidate me? You don't hear that. I've never and will never give any unlawful directive to any security operative. All I say is keep the peace, do your jobs. In infrastructure, Bayelsans know that I have built the bridges and completed the bridges he could have built and completed but did not. They know the roads like Azikoro here, just close to you, which he could have done but did not do. They know the Tombia and Masoma road that he could have done and completed that he did not do. They know the Ogobri Bridge, which is a masterpiece that we have completed, that he could have completed and did not do, and so on and so forth. Talk of the Boro Town Road. There's now a thriving Boro Town. Look, whatever I have done, I don't need to talk about it. The people of Bayelsa know what I've been able to do.
Let me quickly ask you, the conduct of Kogi election is just a few days away, and that was the very first outing of the new INEC chairman. Your own election is going to be in another few days. Are you confident of this new face of INEC?
Well, as a person, I always believe that the security agencies and all other institutions will do their best. And my duty as governor is to encourage and work with them to ensure that all institutions perform their roles. I haven't got enough facts about the Kogi election, but I believe that INEC should be encouraged and supported to do a good job. I believe that in spite of the pressures on them by the ruling party and by its candidate, because his own electoral plan is hinged on a manipulation of the system. He doesn't care what happens to the reputation of these institutions. He puts pressure on the Commissioner of Police as if the police is an extension of the APC. He puts pressure on the DSS and goes to the DSS office in Abuja and works with the DSS officials in Abuja and in Nagoya as if the DSS as a state institution is an arm. It's an arm, a security arm of his party. He doesn't care what happens to their reputation and the careers of these officers. Now, I am the opposite of that. I believe that as a political leader, we need to start on the premise that officials of state and institutions of state will do their utmost.
Right.
Yes.
As we wind down now, you are seeking re-election. Tell the people of Bayelsa one thing that you hope to achieve if you get the mandate.
Well, Bayelsans know that I'm the candidate of hope. And I like that word you use, hope. I am the candidate of hope. And I'm running to consolidate on our clear record, very clear record of security, very clear record of development, very clear record of investing in human capacity, In 3 years, we have spent over 26 billion in education. Within this period, we have built 26 constituency secondary schools, 25 constituency secondary schools, boarding constituency secondary schools, which are ready for takeoff. Not to talk of the modern secondary schools. And this is a state where we didn't have a single boarding school. We have built and are still building more primary schools. We are building a lot of training institutions, from driving schools to tourism academy, and training human capacity. Not to talk of the scholarships and the other systems, or the teachers training academy. And so Bayelsans know that I am the candidate that can consolidate on peace and security. I'm the candidate that can consolidate on the much needed development, working on the 3 senatorial roads, which we have started, which my opponent could have done but did not do, didn't care about. And then we're taking, so they know that when I'm elected, that will give this state an opportunity to consolidate on security, on development, and then to bring about the needed prosperity.
On a final note, Your Excellency, we know just how restive this region has been in the past years. The issue of security is very key. Can you look into that camera and tell the whole of the nation and the Bayelsa people that should you lose this election, you will tame your opponent, your supporters?
Well, let me put it this way. In a free and fair election, there's no way Timipre Silva will even get up to 5% of votes. So it's not a question of should PDP lose. I and my party can never lose in a free and fair election in Bayelsa. On the strength of the party, on the performance of my government, and on the engagements that I've had and continue to have with the voters, as against the other practice where the other party carries people from place to place who are not voters, from even outside the state, from other neighboring states and so on. I go to communities and engage voters. This whole state, I should say about 90-something% of this state is behind me and my aspiration. They are behind the PDP. So the issue of maintenance of peace, I'm the candidate of peace and stability. Bayelsans know that. And I expect that federal institutions that are objective also know that I am the candidate that can consolidate peace, not just in Bayelsa, but I'm the candidate that can work to promote peace and security in this region and to contribute my bit in the maintenance of law and order in our country.
Your Excellency, it's a pleasure talking to us on Channels Television.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. God bless you.
Thanks so much.
Mr. Governor, you're very welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
This election poses a very unique scenario in the sense that a predecessor is vying to become a successor in this election. Your predecessor is the former governor of the state, Timipre Silva. Mr. Governor, can you tell us what exactly should voters and the viewers know about the administration that preceded yours and your own administration in Bayelsa State? Okay,
very well. Thank you very much. Bayelsans especially, and a lot of discerning Nigerians know the clear difference or the achievements of my administration vis-a-vis the areas that my predecessor didn't do quite well. He remains my brother and my friend and my predecessor, but he failed woefully in the sense that when he was governor for 4 and close to 5 years, that was a period of the worst insecurity in this state. And for me, security is the cornerstone of every development. For you to bring in investors, there must be security. For you to even construct roads, there must be security. For example, when I came in, there was no major construction company working in Bayelsa on account of insecurity. And I had to lobby hard. I had to work hard to earn the confidence of all major construction firms. Julius Berger had to come into the state. Dantada and Sawo had to come into the state. Setraco that was working, that had abandoned, that had been chased away because of insecurity, had to come back in. So Bayelsans know that the issues in this election, the major failure of failing of the last government of the APC candidates government, this incapacity to provide law and order, which is the major duty and responsibility of anyone in power, anyone in government. That is the reason you have an organized system called a government, so that you can try as much as you can to secure the lives and properties of people in the society. He couldn't do that. And even as he has been out of power for close to 4 years, he has not shown remorse about it. I actually called on him to apologize to the people of this state. He's taking the people of this state for granted. And I'm not surprised that instead of apologizing to them for the monumental atrocities committed by cult and criminal gangs under his watch and with his active support and encouragement, this state lost over 300 young people who themselves, any one of them could have been a governor like him. Their lives to him didn't matter. Now, we had to work hard to instill law and order and to bring back a semblance of, some normalcy in the security situation. I know the investments we've made, and that's just talking about security. I am building schools that he could have built but did not build. I'm building and completing roads and bridges and flyovers that he could have done that did not do. He received much more money for the 4 years and 7 months than I have received for the past 3.5 years. As you know, our country is going through almost a recession, more or less. But and with all of this, we are building schools, we are building hospitals, we are upgrading our infrastructure. Take, for example, the airport that he could have built but did not build. Our airport is now about 70% completed, 70% work done. Meanwhile, he started an airport, so-called, and the only thing we saw was a signboard in a place that had not been completed. And he played politics with everything, named it after the the ailing president, Musa Yar'Adua, and got him to come and commission it or to lay a foundation stone. And that was where it was. A lot of money sunk there. A lot of money also went into Mimbe Brass Road, which was abandoned.
Mr. Governor,
Yes.
you've talked a bit about abandoned projects. Can you shed a bit more light in particular detail now
Yes.
about the fiscal health of the state when you inherited it, when you assumed office?
Well, thank you. That's another area where people also know the difference between the APC candidate and myself. I run a prudent government. I run a government that places emphasis on capital projects. I run a government that is not known for wastages. I run a government that till today is not indicted for corruption. I run a government of transparency. We are the government of transparency. I propose a bill by which I'm obligated every month to address the people of the state as to the financials of the state. These are fundamental reforms I've carried on in the politics of this state. This state will never be the same again. All we are seeking to do is to consolidate these records. And when I came, we had several loans and obligations, which were, some of them were unnecessary and badly managed, to say the least. I don't want to say more about that. But today, we have managed to reduce the debt profile of Bayelsa. So from being one of the highest indebted states, as at the time I took over, Bayelsa is now one of the least indebted states. Recently, Bayelsa didn't apply for bailout. Take, for example, because we didn't bailout. Bailout was to pay salary arrears. And even in this financial situation, we are not owing salaries. Salaries of workers of the state government are not owed. There are a few local governments that are owing local government salaries and have only applied for bailout to support those local government workers, which the APC candidate is using his federal contacts to block. So if you are talking of management of the economy, management of the finances, that is one area all Bayelsans know, and those who deal with us know our record on that.
Mr. Governor, some political pundits framed this election as an election between the power of federal might and the power of incumbency. Do you see it that way?
Well, let me put it this way. People see this election as a no election in Bayelsa. A no election because there's no candidate actually running a credible election against me. They know the candidate of the opposition, the leading opposition. You see, because he was governor for almost 5 years. So Bayelsans know the kind of government he ran. They know his antecedents. They know his failures, and they are monumental. And a number of them, they have not forgotten in a hurry, and so many people have not forgiven him for what he did as well as for what he failed to do. So this election is not an election in that sense, because you can't match Silva against me. His record as governor for 4 or 5 years, and my record as governor for less than 4 years. However, there's some truth in the way you framed it, because Senator Silva knows that he would not have contested this election if his party didn't win the presidential elections. He ran for Senate and even lost in his own unit, in his own community. And we're talking of a man who was governor for almost 5 years. And I'm not surprised, because as we speak, he doesn't even have a home, doesn't have a hut in his community of Boma. He doesn't have a place, a house, no matter how small, even in Yenagoa. He doesn't believe in the possibilities of the state. He plays politics. And the politics he's playing is to use federal institutions to now do a trial lock in the Nigerian sense. So it's gambling. He has dabbled into this race as a gamble to see whether he can use the federal control of his party, to see how they can get federal institutions to compromise the electoral process, use the security agencies controlled by the federal government, and he's really working hard at that.
Mr. Governor, let me ask you this question. As you look at the entire scenario right now in this election, you've mentioned that he's working very hard, as you've alleged now, that he's working very hard with his party to potentially, at least, influence the election illegally. What is your sense right now? What is your instinct? What is your instinct telling you about the likelihood of wrong influence of federal institutions and federal apparatus to influence the outcome of this election? Will it be decided by Bayelsa voters or not, in your mind?
Well, I am hoping that the Bayelsa voters will have an opportunity to exercise their democratic rights to choose who their next governor will be. And I've gone around these states on a community-to-community engagement which is unprecedented in the political history of the state. My opponent, who is challenger, is not campaigning as much as I'm doing. And I'm educating the people. I've done enough of that. And I know that the people understand the issues. They know the dangers posed by the possibility of a return to the dark days that we have left behind. And the people are determined. And I'm encouraging them to come out, cast their votes, and make sure that their votes are counted and that their votes count. I'm also hoping that the federal institutions will be able to withstand undue illegal pressures by the APC leadership on them. For example, my opponent goes to the security offices in Abuja. He has held more meetings with the security chiefs in Abuja, much more than he has even met with potential voters. For him, the voters in Bayelsa are irrelevant. Once the director SSS is with him, the DGSSS is with him, the IG of police is with him, and the commissioner of police are with him, and the JTF and their soldiers are with him. As far as he's concerned, that is the result he wants. They will get him the result. He's hoping and working hard to compromise INEC. And that is the focus of his campaign. If you go around Bayelsa, it's not promising anything new. After all, people know him, so they know that there's nothing he can promise. He cannot promise what he couldn't do when he had an opportunity to. So nobody takes him seriously, and it says he will use federal might. The story in Bayelsa is federal might. So in a way, it is the federal institutions against, not incumbent, against the people of the state. And I'm hoping that, as always, the will of the people will prevail.
Mr. Governor, the challenges of infrastructure, the challenges of socio-political unrest in the Niger Delta region is well known to the entire world. Now, as one of the key leaders of the Niger Delta region in this country, can you speak a little bit about how you see your responsibility, not just as the governor of Bayelsa State, but as a leader of a region that is absolutely key to the future of this country?
Well, I am very conscious of that, and if I have any disagreement with the leading challenger, Chief Silva, particularly arising from his record as governor, is because he didn't take that duty of responsible leadership seriously enough. A society, we as leaders of the society have a paramount duty to ensure that we try our utmost to ensure the protection and the security and safety of the people and of the society. And we try as much as possible to positively influence young people, for example, and ultimately the society, which he did not do. He allowed cult violence, he patronized cult elements, and used security institutions. The same thing he's doing, trying to use security institutions to compromise law and order. He did it when he was governor to shield crime, criminality, and violent elements. I am known, my entire politics is based on non-violence. I'm known as a candidate of issues, addressing issues. Everyone knows me that I'm a man of conviction. I don't resort to crime and criminality, and I don't condone it. And that is why I'm able to enforce order and keep criminals at bay. So I take my responsibility as governor very seriously in that sense. And Bayelsa, the governor of Bayelsa, is critical to the maintenance of the security balance in the country and in the region because of the Ijaw situation in the Niger Delta. Whoever is governor of Bayelsa has a role to support the national aspiration as far as maintenance of the federal integrity of our country is concerned, as far as maintenance of law and order is concerned. And we have to work with the relevant agencies and with the federal government. Whether it is in the federal government is controlled by another party or not, the issue of national security should be paramount to whoever is there as governor. And I'm the candidate of security.
Mr. Governor, in the last few days, the Federal High Court in Abuja has dismissed charges of corruption against the former governor of Bayelsa State, Timi Silva, your rival in this election, to the tune of over 20 billion naira. Do you believe that that is simply coincidence ahead of this election, or do you believe that this may be a sign of things to come, potentially with political interference in institutions?
Well, I have said it over and over again that political institutions are being interfered with. I don't want to comment specifically on the outcome of that case. I'm yet to read the judgment, so I don't want to comment on it. But it fits into the pattern of interference that I've always talked about. the use of security operatives in the SSS and in the police and in the military, attempts made by the APC leadership and with elements in the federal government actively compromising all institutions of state, just to be able to, in their own words, capture Bayelsa. So it is driven by expansionism. I have seen a lot of that, and I'm managing it maturely and calmly, because I believe that the people's right to vote will determine this election. I'm not asking for much. I'm not asking for any favoritism. I'm not asking for anybody to do anything that is not regular. All I'm asking is that a level playing field be established.
Mr. Governor, we know that in governance there can be no perfect administration, certainly. As you move into your second term, what would you like to improve upon, if there's any area at all? What would you like to improve upon in the delivery of service to Bayelsa State?
Is to consolidate on the peace, stability, and security. For me, maybe because of my background, someone who started as a law enforcement officer, and my background as a lawyer, and I've been a man of the law all through my life, in the parliament, and attorney general of the state, and so I'm a man of the law. I believe that the enthronement of law and order is the first condition you must meet for any meaningful development. So you're going to see a consolidation of peace and security and order. You're going to see a consolidation of our initiatives in education, because the breakdown of the educational system itself is a security risk, because it creates this vicious circle of unemployed people, unemployable people who are prone to all kinds of negative influences. Because a young man who could have been a graduate, who could have been a medical doctor or a journalist or some banker, without access to education will end up wielding an AK-47 rifle and be dreaming of kidnapping a 90-year-old to collect a ransom. That is the scenario I've dealt with. And with the aggressive revolutionary reforms that I have started in education, for example, where I've built so many boarding schools, and now I pay WAEC for every Bayelsa student. I pay GC for the past 4 years, for as long as I've been governor. I pay JAMB. So I'm now taking a lot of these young people out and exposing them to the endless potentials that education and only education offers. I'm building primary schools, I'm building teachers' quarters, I'm building teachers' training academy to train the capacity of teachers, and I'm building 25 boarding schools, all completed as we speak. All completed. And these are located in communities, my dear friend. All this, so the communities know what we have done. And these are the things to consolidate. And I'm also at the same time expanding the infrastructure. It's an airport coming up. Roads are being modernized. And then next thing we need to face is the economy. I've started a microfinance bank with office in every local government headquarters, by which I'm making it easier for the local people to access credit. And I've opened an entrepreneurship training school where they will be trained and then credit will be made available to them. So that is what we need to consolidate on. And these are the issues in this election. And that's why I say we are running to consolidate peace, development, and prosperity.
Mr. Governor, some political pundits have framed this race in a way that is very similar to a race we saw in 2014 in Ekiti State, where you had a very astute administrator, and you had a man who is now the governor of the state, Ayofayese, who was running against him. And the argument against the current governor was almost that he was too good, that he was almost too good of an administrator, and that stomach infrastructure, as it's now called, did not play enough of a role in the electioneering process. Can you speak about the perception out there that your administration has been almost too good in terms of efficiency and infrastructural development, that potentially the days of free money in Bayelsa State had come dry, and that may affect the outcome of the election? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can't comment on what really happened to in Ekiti State. That was for the people of Ekiti to decide, and they've decided it. Well, pundits can speculate one way or the other. Fayemi is now a minister, and I know he will do well there, just as well as my good friend Fayoshe is also working hard to be a great governor, that I believe he is. Here, I have no apologies blocking wastages and corruption in government. In all this argument out there, or criticism out there, from when, which I've weathered for as long as I've been governor, within my party and without, appointees resigning because of the lure of federal appointments and to sustain and get federal patronage and so on, you have never heard that Governor Dickson is corrupt. So I think we're on course. I have promoted the cause of transparency and prudence. I put this state on another pedestal, which I believe will be a standard for future governors coming in. Again, that's not something I apologize about. I've created enough mechanisms for people to be legitimately empowered. The empowerment people seek cannot be at the detriment of the state. And we shouldn't see that as good politics in this state or in any other state. So again, that's not something I apologize about. And that's why I've made more appointments, given more political appointments to people than any other governor before me. Because I see that as a way by which people can earn legitimate incomes that they can justify and live on. I have also created a way by which people benefit from the different contracts that we have given. We are a government that is working, a government in a hurry to develop a state, meaning there's a lot of construction, a lot of things going on. And these things are legitimate avenues by which the so-called issues of stomach infrastructure are attended to. Now, we shouldn't, in this state or in any state in our country, encourage a situation where people, for the sake of fulfilling stomach infrastructure, promote corruption. Because there cannot be enough public resources to be used to satisfy the greed of few elites. I know that I may have spent some bit of political capital in terms of managing a situation where some few greedy elites whose claim to leadership is not so much on account of commitment to service and well-being of the people, but it's because they were former this, former that, former this. And in our system in this country, those leadership comes automatically. It's presumed to be automatic. And once a few of those people, for pecuniary benefits that they cannot get from a system, disagree, they tend to create an impression that a whole lot of people are disagreeing. No. In Bayelsa, I think people have come to terms with the fact that these reforms that I have initiated, which I warned, by the way, in the course of my inaugural address, I said it will no longer be business as usual. There will be a paradigm shift in the governance culture, and it will start with me. So I think that Bayelsans are at home. They understand. For example, now there's even no money. There's no money that any government has. Even the federal government doesn't have money to do free framework infrastructure. And even when my opponent was there as governor, shops were closing down because of the wrongful channeling of available resources and the wrong prioritization. Yes.
Mr. Governor, my final question to you is, if this is the moment that you have a final opportunity before Election Day to address Bayelsa voters directly, what is it that you want to tell them about you as a leader personally, and also what your administration has been about and what it will be about in a potential second term if you are elected? What should they know very clearly about you and your administration in view of a potential second term?
Well, thank you very much, Ajuri. Bayelsans already know our record of service, but let me use this opportunity to remind them what they already know, i.e., that we all have to stay alive for the sake of your safety and the safety of your members of family, your children, particularly the young people, for the sake of businesses to thrive and not to run away from Yenagoa and Bayelsa on account of insecurity. Because I know that our people don't want to, they are tired of burying their young children in the hands of cult elements, organized and sponsored and supported by the state, which the APC and their candidate are already promoting. Right now, the man has not changed. It cannot change. For your own safety, all of you are on this ballot with me. I'm not in this race for myself. I'm in this race for your own safety and the safety of your children. I'm in this race because we want to develop and make Bayelsa a proud place to be. You have already seen what I've done. You've seen the roads I've expanded. You've seen the airport I'm building. You've seen the bridges I have constructed. You've seen how I've invested money even to build a road to my opponent's local government in Nembe. You have seen the schools and schools I've built in all your communities. Now, we need to consolidate on this. And this election is therefore not about me. This election is about your future. And I expect all well-meaning Bayelsans to reject a life of violence and insecurity. I don't want us to return back to those days well-meaning people of Bayelsa will be on exile for years for no just cause. And for you to achieve that, for you to continue to have educated children, for us to move away from violence and criminality and be known only as the headquarters of kidnapping and pipeline vandalism and all of those associated crimes, you've got to vote for your countryman, Toknadu governor, so that we can continue the business of securing you and your families, so that we can continue the business of building roads and bridges, so that we can continue the building of schools and yet more schools, so that we can continue to serve you better and continue to promote transparency and bring order to the way government business is conducted.
Mr. Governor, it's been my distinct honor and privilege to have you on the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ajuri, for having me. And welcome to Bayelsa again. Thank you.